Hey, and what is going on, everybody? It is Zero here, back with more Diablo action. Today we're going to be talking about the Invoker set. I've kind of been pushed into playing this build this season due to just the horrible drops I've been getting for Seeker of the Light and just being totally unable to get upgrades this season for it for whatever reason. That being said, I started playing some Invokers just to switch things up, and I ended up really liking it a lot. Which is a good thing, because it seems like this season all I'm getting is stuff that is Invokers. It's like the only gear I'm getting this season. Invokers, Invokers, Invokers. So, let's get into it. Skills, guys. We are using Punish, Clarity. This is a very big deal. This is like the only thing you'll be doing for the majority of the time. You'll just keep hitting Punish, spamming over and over again, and using your other skills when they're off cooldown, okay? It's very important. Strike your enemy with 335% weapon damage and gain Hardened Senses, increasing your block chance by 15% for 5 seconds. When you block with Hardened Senses, you gain 15% increased attack speed for 3 seconds. So attack speed is a huge, huge part of this deal. You need to be attacking as quickly as possible, okay? And this is going to give you 15% increased attack speed pretty much all the time, okay? You do need some mobility in the build. Without it, you're going to get screwed over plenty of times. Trust me, I've tried this slot with what's it called, this consecration with the bed of nails. It doesn't work. You need the mobility. It would be nice to be able to fit that in for even more thorns damage, but it just doesn't work out. You end up dying too many times because you can't escape from nasty situations. So you can either use Draw and Quarter or Endurance. I've played both skills plenty with this build. I just prefer Draw and Quarter. It allows you to kind of group things up a little easier than with Endurance. We're using Akarat's Champion with Profit for obvious reasons. Provoke, Hit Me, taunt all nearby enemies and instantly generate 5 additional wrath for every enemy taunted. Taunted enemies will focus their attention on you for 4 seconds. This is important. You need things focused on you all the time. Gain 50% increased block chance for 4 seconds after casting Provoke. You can switch this out to Cleanse to get more life on hit if you have enough block chance. I feel like I just wasn't able to run it with Cleanse right now. I need Hit Me. So if you have really high block chance, you can switch this out for Cleanse for even more sustainability with Cleanse. Iron Skin, Reflective Skin, we want that extra Thorns damage for sure. While active, your Thorns is increased by 300%. Laws of Justice, Decaying Strength. Empower the Law, granting you and your allies 490 increased resistance, big deal. In addition, while the Law is empowered, any enemy who attacks you or your allies will have their damage reduced by 15% for 5 seconds, stacking up to a maximum of 60%. So that's quite a big deal. That really reduces the amount of incoming damage. Passives, guys, we're using Finery for 1.5 strength for every gem socketed. This is definitely going to help increase the amount of thorns you're putting out. Thorns, Iron Maiden, increase your thorns by 50%. Hold your ground. You can no longer dodge, but your block chance is increased by 30%. Block chance is key in this build. While wielding a one-handed weapon, your attack speed is increased by 15% and all cooldowns reduced by 15%. So more attack speed there. Huge to have attack speed on this build, okay, guys? Gear-wise, let's look at the Invoker set first, guys. We're running boots. You're going to go pure tank on your boots. Remember that the great thing about this, as opposed to, say, LON, is that Invokers always rolls Thorns on the secondary, which allows you to focus on the main stat rolls more often than not. And when you do get something that just rolls perfectly right out of the box, let's say, you can just roll your Thorns higher. But you don't have to focus on getting Thorns on all those Invokers pieces. That's 6 pieces of your gear that are 100% chance going to have Thorns on them. So that's fantastic. So go pure tank if you can. Try not to have movement speed on your stupid boots. Pants, again, go pure tank. Get as much Thorns as you can on the secondary. Gloves, you need, with this build, to have at least 2 pieces of gear with attack speed on them at least 5% minimum. If you don't have that, this build is not going to work for you. It's just, you're not going to have the attack speed to make it work properly, okay? So 2 pieces with at least 5%. Okay, so with your gloves, that's a perfect place to put attack speed, 5% minimum, area damage and cooldown with main stat. On your shoulders, strength, bite, area damage, and cooldown. On your helmet, we're going to go strength, bite, and life per hit. Life per hit is really, really good on this build. It really helps keep you alive. And on your bracers, physical skills, strength, vitality, and life per hit. You need to have at least 2 pieces of physical to really push 80s with this. Okay, you need 2 pieces with physical, so that's your amulet, that's your bracers. You have to have it. Okay. Speaking of amulet, let's look at that set. That's the Endless Walk set, guys. We all know what that does by now. We're going to get 100% increased damage while we're standing still, which is going to be every time we're engaging something, we will be standing still. You're going to want to roll physical skills, strength, and then it's up to you. If you can get something with like area damage, that would be excellent, or even life on hit would be excellent. But that obviously is a little easier said than done. Even like, you know, physical, area, and cooldown would be like really baller on this, but that's obviously easier said than done. And then on the ring, this is where I put my other attack speed. So I went strength, attack speed, area damage, cooldown. Unfortunately, no thorns. Remember, on all these other pieces, you're going to want to try and get thorns if you can. Next up, let's take a look at the chest piece. We're running the Aquala. Now, you're going to want to go tank on this if you can. Strength, fight, armor, or life percent, or something like that. I opted to roll thorns on my secondary and basically just have a throwaway stat on there with the bombardment damage. You're going to be at full resource all the time with this build, so this is an absolute must for the build. It's a huge way to reduce your damage that's coming in, so you have to have it, okay? The belt, we're using the Belt of the Trove. Strength, Vite, all res. Try and go pure tank. Again, though, I chose to sacrifice a skill for Thorns damage here, guys. And the reason we are running the Belt of the Trove is because of, excuse me, the 4-piece set on the Invokers. You take 50% less damage for 20 seconds after damaging an enemy with Bombardment. So we don't have Bombardment on our skill bar. We have it just from the Belt of the Trove every 6 seconds to, well, you know, whatever range you get when you roll yours. This is going to be a huge way of reducing incoming damage, and you don't have to do anything. It just does it automatically, okay? Next up, we have, let's look at the Justice Lantern. Strength, block chance, area damage, cooldown, and gain damage reduction equal to 49% of your block chance. So the more block chance you have, the better. Keep in mind that you can only have up to 100% block chance, so you want to try and get enough block chance on your gear to equal out to 100 with your other buffs, okay, so that you have a 50% reduction of damage from the ring, basically, okay. Then we have the hack, up to, I believe, 100% of your Thorns damage is applied on every single attack. That is huge. You're always going to jump into a group, hopefully with an elite in the middle of all the trash, and focus your attacks on the elite so that you're just doing massive amounts of Thorns damage. Massive amounts of Thorns damage to that elite. This is kind of a hard item to roll, I find, because you want to roll the base damage off into something else. I chose cooldown just because of the way that mine rolled. This would be another acceptable place to put attack speed. If you could get attack speed on your weapon and both of your rings and your gloves, that's not going to be a bad thing. That's going to push you up even higher on the breakpoint for attack speed, but that's very difficult, I find, to roll. Okay? And lastly, Voitar, I don't even know how to say that word, so let's just call it the Spiker. Shield, more block chance on there, reduce some cooldown, maybe some area damage, but you can't get area damage on this one, which is why they say it's better to roll the other shield equipped and put this one in the cube, but I haven't found a decent enough shield. We'll talk about the other shield in a minute, because you can get area damage on the other one. Obviously, you want to get Thorns on the secondary. Enemies affected by Provoke take double damage from Thorns. That's huge. Huge. It's unbelievable the amount of Thorns this thing outputs. Man, I'm burpy today. Sorry. Let's quickly talk about the Invoker set here, guys. So the 2-piece set reads, your Thorns damage now hits all enemies within 15-yard radius of you. Each time you hit an enemy with punish, slash, or block an attack, your Thorns is increased by 35% for 2 seconds. So this is constantly, 100% of the time, being procced. Always. So that's 35% more Thorns damage. The 4-piece, again, we already talked about with Bombardment. 6-piece set, the attack speed of punish and slash are increased by 50% and deal 800% of your Thorns damage to the first enemy hit. Huge Thorns damage. Okay. So basically, with everything going on, that's why you only need two pieces with attack speed, really, to hit the right area for attack speed, because you have all this other stuff increasing your attack speed. I'll leave a link in the description to the breakpoint spreadsheet for attack speed and show you that you really only need 2 pieces with 5%, but you can obviously hit a greater breakpoint if you have more pieces with attack speed equaling up to the proper breakpoint. Like, you have all the pieces that equal up with your buffs of attack speed to get to the next higher breakpoint. But that being said, I'm doing 80s with just 2 pieces with attack speed. So you can do it with just 2 pieces. Okay, it requires a lot more re-rolling and reforging and farming to get all those other pieces with attack speed and have the right rolls with everything else. Okay, but you can do it with 2, so that's great. Legendary gems, guys, we are running with Bane of the Stricken. Each attack you make against an enemy increases the damage it takes. Whatever level yours is at. I would suggest having this at least 80 if you're trying to run 80s. All your legendary gems at least 80. Gain 25% increased damage against bosses and Rift Guardians. Okay. Boyardi's Chip. 82.4 Thorns. Taunt the first enemy hit by your primary skills for 2 seconds. Very good. It's really about the Thorns here, though. More Thorns, more Thorns, more Thorns. That's what you want with this build. And then lastly, Bane of the Trap. Increased damage against enemies under control of parrying effects by whatever level yours is at. Again, go for 80 if you're trying to run 80s. Okay, that should be the general rule of thumb here. If you're trying to run 75, have your gems at 75. If you're trying to run 80s, have your gems at 80. That's kind of the general rule of thumb that you should have when pushing with any build. Okay, and then gain an aura that reduces the movement speed so it procs itself. Okay. Lastly, let's look at the cube, guys. Here's the other shield, Akarat's Awakening. Every successful block has a 25% chance to reduce all cooldowns by 1 second. So this shield can roll area damage, which this shield cannot. This is a Crusader shield. Crusader shields can roll area damage. So realistically speaking, it is better to have this equipped. But you have to get a decent enough roll. So my Spiker rolled better than all the Akarat's Awakenings that I've picked up, so that's why I have it this way. You're going to do whichever one is rolled better for you, okay? Sanguinary Bracers, I think that's how you say it. This can be switched out. It's entirely up to you. To Heart of the Iron, gain Thorns equal to 300% of your Vitality, but I think that even though this is a more consistent Thorns boost, when you are really surrounded and you are getting hit a ridiculous amount, which is what you want to constantly be getting hit. Okay, remember, even with the block chance, blocks do not take away the damage you've received. It lowers the damage you receive when you block an attack, so it can still proc your Thorns and it can still proc these. So you have a chance on being hit to deal 1000% of your Thorns damage to nearby enemies. That is huge, and you can see it when you're fighting elites. When this thing procs, you can see it. And there are times, I'm telling you, when this thing just procs over and over and over and over and over and over again, and you can see elites just crumble. That being said, it's not as consistent as the Heart of the Iron, and I know that some people prefer to run Heart of the Iron. I think that's a mistake. You get way more damage out of the Vambraces. So that is my recommendation. That being said, Blizzard, you need to make this a more consistent rate, because there are times when you're getting hit a ridiculous amount and for whatever reason this just does not proc. And you can see that visibly on elite health bars, that it's just not procking. And then lastly, we're using the Convention of Elements so that we have huge damage increase on the physical roll. So basically the playstyle, guys, is you want to group things up as much as possible, trash, around elites. Focus your attacks on the elites. You want to be attacking the elites, not the trash. Attack with punish on the elites. Okay? And when it rolls around to physical on the convention of elements, you want to make sure you have provoke, iron skin, and laws of justice ready to pop. You want to pop those right at the very moment. So let's say 1 second before it rolls over to physical, and the damage is gonna fucking soar. Okay, that's it. That's it. Let's look at these for a minute. So what you really want to be looking at right here, guys, with your stats, attacks per second, you want this at least 1.5. Okay, and with all your other things going on, this is gonna skyrocket you into the next, like the proper breakpoint that you're looking for with the 2 pieces of attack speed. Okay. So 1.5 at least, all right? Crit chance, crit damage, doesn't matter. Cooldown reduction, let's say you want it at least 55, and then the other things are going to take care of cooling you down, okay? Physical damage increase, again, you want at least 2 pieces, ideally with 20% on both, okay? Bombardment, we don't need that. Thorns, you want at least 250,000, I would say, for running 80s. And this is going to be constantly getting increased. I mean, look at the increase just from popping iron skin. We go from 264, yeah, to 1 million. So that's huge, right? And that doesn't equal all the other increases of thorns that we can get. Life per hit, I'm going to recommend that you have at least 45,000 and up. And I mean, that's the build, guys. It's really, really badass and really, really fun to just get in there. And the build's really tanky. You just get in there. All this shit is just pounding you like crazy, and you're just taking it, man, and pushing it back at them. It's a more truer Thorns build, I find, than LON Bomb. Because you're just standing there soaking up the damage and then pushing it back out at them, you know? I really, really enjoy it. I wish that they would add something to the game to make this build even more viable. What I think would be phenomenal is they would add some sort of Thorns Ring to take over the spot of the Convention of Elements in the cube. Some sort of really good Thorns Ring. I don't know how it would work, but I think we need it. I think we need a Thorns Ring, or maybe even a chess piece, a Thorns chess piece, like a normal legendary Thorns chess piece. I don't know. They need to add another Thorns item to this game, because realistically, this build has no place in multiplayer. Unless you were running with like 3 0 DPS characters that are just pulling mobs on top of you, it just wouldn't work in a multiplayer setting. And even then, this build functions on being hit. So 0 DPS really wouldn't help that much, because more often than not, well, all the time, 100% of the time, 0 DPS focus on pulling things in and stunning them. So it would be useless. So they need to add something to make Thorns viable in a multiplayer setting, and maybe a Thorns Ring would be an excellent choice. Anyway, I'm really enjoying this build. Hopefully I explained it, well enough. I'm not the most technical Diablo video guy, but, it is what it is. I'm really enjoying it. I like the build a lot. I just wish that Blizzard would do something to allow it to get a little bit higher, because, I mean, even with hammers this season, LON Bomb's still taking over the top of the leaderboard. It's still that strong. So they need to do something to push us towards, being able to push with other builds other than LON Bomb. I mean, Hammers has that ability, but that playstyle isn't for everybody, and maybe this playstyle is for half of the Crusader community. Who knows? So give us something to help push this into, a top 100 position, because right now I don't think it could top 100. I know, like, with extremely high Paragon, it can push into the 90s, but at like basic Paragon 800 to say 1,000, I mean, it's really only going to do 85 to 90 at the most. So Blizzard, come on, give us a Thorns Ring for Christ's sake. Let's go. Anyway, guys, That's Invokers. I really like it. I think it's pretty badass. Like, comment, and subscribe. Later.